buddy.
Hey, buddy. Buddy!
Dig it, sucker. Dig it. You got me. Dig it, sucker. Dig it. You got me mad now.
Boy, oh boy, what a show we have planned for you guys today. Obviously, I'm sitting in this chair because, unfortunately, Johnny LaQuasto is in a hospital in Orlando somewhere. Something about stalking divas at the Performance Center. No, I'm just kidding, but that's a really messed that's a really messed up story.
It's gonna be.
Hey, remember, you're not supposed to talk till you're introduced, according to you last week.
That's true. That is good etiquette.
I was actually planning to maybe just, skip right over you and go to my man Bill, who's over there, who I am going to introduce first, because I'm excited to have this man here. He helped me get to PWG this weekend, which was one of the best wrestling shows I have ever been to in my life.
Yeah, it's a good show.
But sitting with us here in studio is Bill Handstock. You can find him over on SB Nation. He's the wrestling editor over there. He also works for Cage Side Seats, and he's a sports writer and a screenwriter.
My boy.
That's right. How you doing, Bill?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I am very excited to have you here with us today. I mean, especially after the shows we got to see this weekend.
Yeah, it was a long weekend of wrestling.
Very long. How long would you say Sunday's show went?
Sunday's show is 6 hours long.
That's insane.
Like legit 6 hours long.
And I can see that Scott Narver sitting next to you really wants to say something about that. So we're going to go ahead and introduce you now, Scott.
All right.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing
Scott
well.
Narver, he's Scott Narver. Curtain jerking Padres, always there to save the day. Scott Narver, he's Scott Narver.
Now, thanks to Rhythm and Blues for that music.
Yeah, and it did the part of introing you for me because it told all your credits in it.
And I think this is why I needed to speak before, because you are Chuck Rice. This is Wrestling Compadres Slamcast.
He's a
Yeah, just the
That's
little
right.
minor stuff.
I'm supposed to put myself over too, I guess, right?
And what the name of the show is.
Wrestling. Well, it's right there.
For the audio listener,
for the
it's right
podcast
there.
listeners.
It's right there.
All right,
on
we
the screen.
are the Wrestling Compadres Slamcast. We do have an awesome show for you today. We have a guest returning to the show that hasn't been here for a while because Tough Enough has kept him busy. And a lot of you are always asking, well, why is Booker T in your logo? Why is Booker? As Booker told us before, because he's a compadre, damn it. And he will be back with us today. So, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing...
I didn't know Scott had his own theme song. That's pretty...
Scott Narver, he's Scott Narver. Curtain jerking Padres.
It's major league, man.
It is. I can't believe that the Honky Tonk Man did that for me. It's just
They forgot to put your Titantron up, though, when they played it.
they did, of me just falling down all the time.
Is that a thing?
That's what those are my moves.
Oh, I mean, everyone's got to have a gimmick, right?
Yeah, stumbling, falling. I like to take from Dick Van Dyke. I think is
yeah.
one of the finest pro wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
I'm on a roll, baby.
You know that Dick Van Dyke evolved as a worker because in the later seasons they moved the Ottoman and he would skip around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He invented the Royal Rumble. It wasn't Pat Patterson.
Oh, this is going to be a fun show today. So, as we mentioned earlier, Bill and I were at PWG this weekend.
Right.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, based out of Reseda, California. I can honestly say to you guys, for a while here, wrestling has been feeling more like work to me and less fun. After going to this show this weekend, my love of wrestling is rekindled.
Yeah.
Bill, you've been going to the shows before. What did you think of this weekend?
It was great. It was really long and incredibly hot in Reseda in the building there, but it was one of the best, PWG events I've been to, and I've been to a ton of them. But I mean, just across the board, it was awesome. Dave Meltzer was there for the first 2 nights. He's been to a bunch of shows there, and Dave Dave Meltzer even said that night 2 was one of the best live events he's ever been to, like better than this year's WrestleMania.
Of course, the event that I missed. Right. You know, of course.
That's the one that people are going to be talking about. That like night 2 is the hottest ticket, like heading into it. It was the most in-demand ticket. It was the one that like everyone was trying to get to because it had like Pentagon's singles match, Phoenix's singles match was on Friday. But it had Pentagon's singles match. It had the Guerrilla Warfare main event was a 6-man tag between Biff Busick, Andrew Everett, and the third guy against the Young Bucks and Super Dragon.
Wow. I mean, and that card was amazing. But even the first night, the matches were just out of this world.
They were all. I mean, every night was great and had awesome stuff.
PWG is like the speakeasy of wrestling.
It really is. You know?
I always hear about it. I always miss it. I don't feel like I know the password to get in, and it's just the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to get tickets because they just keep getting more and more popular, and the tickets keep getting more expensive. But
the fact that I think the tickets were going for about $60 a pop, and it was sold out all 3 nights. I think they have a max capacity of 450 people in there that they can get. And the fact that
which is way above fire code,
right? But what's fascinating to me about this is that not only is the ticket $60, it's not for all 3 nights. That's for one night.
It's and people one session.
For general admission.
Yeah, and people were going for all 3 nights. So they were spending more to go into these shows than they would probably for some WWE shows. Yeah. And listen, no disrespect to the product that WWE puts on because it's entertaining as all hell.
Right.
But their style of wrestling has nothing on this because WWE is more about the show and the spectacle.
Yeah.
And this is about the wrestling.
Yeah. And the beer line.
Yeah, the beer line's very long at PWG.
PWG seems like a pee trough show too. Like in the bathroom, it's the trough.
You know, I went with a friend of mine, a woman who's my friend, all 3 days, and the line to get into the women's room was just like, no wait, just go right in. It's like going to a Rush concert, you know, like there's a huge line going for the men's room, and there's like, you just walk right into them.
And they were the best of friends because all 3 women there got to know each other by the end.
No, actually, so here's the thing about PWG, and I don't know if it's like a Southern California thing, if it's a California thing, or if it's just PWG in general. The average PWG show, you're going to see so many more women and so many more people of color who are there like on their own than any other indie wrestling show.
I even said to Bill, and I went with Warzeka on the first night, you know, and as you guys know,
he's
Mark
engaged.
He is.
Back off, Chuck. He's engaged.
But I was surprised by the amount of attractive women in this crowd, you know, because normally when you go to a wrestling show, it's like one of those things where you expect a bunch of dudes that look like me and Bill to be there.
Right. If you go to like a Ring of Honor show in like Philadelphia or New York, it's gonna be just all angry white guys, like 100%.
I went to one in Philly, and that's what it was.
The thing that was really enjoyable about this show for me though was that oftentimes when you go to a wrestling show, a lot of wrestling fans are just like angry, hostile, and mean when the wrestlers mess up. You get like lots of "you fucked up" chants and things like that.
Yeah, they're ready to attack.
Yeah.
Not at this
crowd. They're looking for the slightest thing.
You know,
not PWG.
No, the people were super friendly. There was maybe 1 or 2 assholes in the crowd. That's about it. And when they were,
maybe one.
No, actually,
No.
But maybe one.
But yeah, maybe.
Chuck was great.
But the rest of the people would like turn on them and be like, "No, that's not acceptable here."
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really rare to get a "you fucked up" chant in PWG because everyone who goes to PWG just wants, they know the wrestlers, they love the wrestlers, they just want to see them do a good job. So like if you like someone like botches something, you get a couple of like ooh, but you won't get like a "fuck you" for messing up.
So it's a big gimme. It's like, oh no, you got this, it'll
because
work out.
everyone's there to have a good time, and everyone's there because they like the people that are there and they want to see them do good.
Yeah,
which is a really
rare,
like it's like a revelatory thing for like a wrestling crowd.
Yeah, this is amazing.
But I want to take it even a step further and say the thing that impressed me was the respect that the fans showed towards the wrestlers, not during the matches, you know, because, you know, the wrestlers came in like through where the fans were to get into the building. Some of them parked their cars in the same lot that the fans are parked in. You know, they, before the show, intermission and after, all the wrestlers were selling their gimmicks, t-shirts, 8x10s, you know, taking pictures.
Sure.
And no one was like bombarding them. No one was harassing addressing them, it was like very respectful, you know, like during intermission and stuff, very nice about it. Before the show, no one got bothered. You know, one of them was out there on his phone, left them alone, you know. Even guests that came to the show,
Like your good friend Lisa Marie.
yeah, Lisa Marie was there, you know, and no one harassed her, no one bothered her, you know what I mean? Like, they were nice to her when they saw her, like, hey, it's Victoria, or, you know, some of them might remember her as Tara, but I think...
Well, but I mean, like, Victoria's just waiting in line with everybody else, and no one's like, oh, you know, like, no one's crowding her. She's just hanging out.
Is everybody just high and docile?
Some of the people are high. Some of the people are very high.
Very high.
I'm just trying to figure out, what is it? What is it in the water?
I heard that. I think, you know, honestly, I think it's just mostly a California thing, especially a Southern California thing. You know, like, we're more laid back here. We don't have to get uptight about stuff like in Philadelphia.
It was
Like, we
just...
don't have to already be angry we're living in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's not cold outside. We battled through the trenches to get there, and it's like, well, give me this. I need this. Give this to me now.
Yeah, it was just so it was fun atmosphere, and the matches. I mean, we haven't really talked about the matches. The matches blew my mind. First of all, look, I'm biased. This guy is a friend, but you know, Bill, not having known him, not knowing who he was before the show, I can honestly say that I think Marty Scurll stole the show at PWG this weekend. You know, his match with Zack Sabre Jr. the final night, while it was a little long, I've never seen a match like that in my life.
Yeah, it was really good.
And I think that all the British guys, and you'll appreciate this, every one of the British guys on the show, phenomenal. They stole the show, essentially.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Tommy End was from Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah. I've seen Tommy End. I interviewed him on Curtain Jerks. He's a tough, scary dude.
Yeah, he is.
So
he loves Satan.
So like the first night, you know, you had him, Zack Sabre Jr. and Marty Scurll, you know, teaming up to face the Young Bucks
and Roderick Strong. Yeah.
And Roderick Strong. And that match blew my mind.
That's a good match.
You know, so listen, guys, if you have a chance, they don't post this stuff online. They're very adamant about other people not posting it.
They got DVDs and stuff, though, right?
Yeah, the DVDs for Battle of Los Angeles are already up for pre-order on ProWrestlingGorilla.com, and you can check those out. They should be on DVD like by the end of September. Like the DVD should
That's
be
quick.
out. Yeah, they get a really fast turnaround. I mean, definitely within the next 2 weeks, PWG is going to post their trailers for these shows, and the trailers are always great. So check out the trailers, and if you guys like what you see, like I have to say, like if you like wrestling at all, you should probably be buying these DVDs. Like you need to find a way to watch these events if you weren't there.
I mean, and it goes without saying, you know, so much lately people have been talking about Lucha Underground as being one of the best things in wrestling right now that people can watch on a widespread level. Half the Lucha Underground roster was on these shows, you know? And so getting to see them. Hey, do we got Booker on the phone with us? Booker?
What up, man?
Oh man, hey, look, we just got a run in right here. We're gonna have to put this PWG talk on hold because we got the man, the myth, the legend, the godfather of this show has returned. Booker, how are you, man?
Hey, man, what's going on, man? Just been working. Just been doing a lot of work lately, you know what I mean? Trying to stay busy.
Well, listen, man, you called this out a couple weeks ago. You said, you're like, hey, I'm like Dr. Dre here. You forgot about me. We didn't. You're back.
Hey, man, you know, I was just wondering, you guys been doing pretty good without me, though. You know, it's all good.
Well, you know, man, it's funny, too, because we were having that conversation, you know, a couple weeks ago. You were telling me some people were tweeting you, how come you're on the Wrestling Compadres logo? You're never on the show. And what was your response to that?
What's that?
Because you're a compadre.
I am a compadre, man. I'm part of the team, man.
Well, dude, we are so happy to have you back. I know your schedule's been crazy. I mean, the one question that's on everyone's mind right now is, how was Tough Enough? How was the experience for you?
Oh, man, it was cool, man. I had a great time. You know, hopefully, you know, they'll bring it back. I've been reading some, you know, news online as far as maybe USA may not pick it up, you know, next season. But we always got the WWE Network to pick it up. But I had a great time, man. I thought the judging system was a little flawed by letting the WWE Universe pick the actual guy who got kicked off the show. I didn't think that was something that, you know, should have been. But hopefully if they bring it back, they'll revamp it. Maybe let the universe pick the bottom three and let, you know, the host or whoever, the judges actually, you know, vote the guy off, you know what I mean? Because we are actually looking for the next tough enough winner, not the next reality superstar.
Well, that's a very fair point. So, with that in mind, how do you feel about the two winners? Do you think they were the right choices? Would you have gone with someone different?
I mean, I said, the way I felt, right up to, the 2-1, I thought Sarah Lee, I thought Amanda should have won. I thought Josh should have won. I thought Mata should have been, somewhere in that thing, at the end myself, as well as Patrick, so it was, the guy who won, out of the two, I think, won. The girls, on the other hand, I think different.
All right, fair enough. Book, if there's anyone that was on that show that you would like to see come back to WWE, especially out of the ones you just mentioned, who do you think has the best shot of making it one day?
I don't know, man. I hope Georgia get a chance to make it back. She should have been. I thought she was the overall winner as far as the girls go. As far as I'm concerned, if I had to pick, if I was the WWE universe, as far as the guys go, Mata, he's a big guy. Maybe he's a throwback to what wrestlers used to be. Maybe he is, outdated a little bit. Josh, he's another big guy. We're gonna wonder how he does. But Patrick is the guy I hope to see come back. He's an independent wrestler. He's still out there right now doing his thing out there in the independent circuit, trying to make his way to the big time. So hopefully he'll, the hard work for him will actually pay off.
Absolutely. Now, on the flip side of that, you had a guy like ZZ who made it towards the end, and a lot of people weren't really high on that guy. What do you think he needs to do differently if he ever wants to have a shot to come back?
Get in the gym, work out, take this thing a little bit more serious. I don't, ZZ may have just looked at the thing as another reality show, and he's done pretty good at it, the WWE fans, they loved him. He just didn't put himself in a position to actually win this thing. If he would have done that, maybe, we would be, talking about somebody else as far as the winner of Tough Enough, So I think, if he does want to be a WWE superstar, hopefully from first off, he's going to have to put the work in. I think if he would have won that contract, he would have went through hell and high water down there at that WWE Performance Center down there with those guys who really are hanging and banging every day to make it to the next the main roster.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned a guy like Patrick a moment ago, and you said how he's out there really busting his ass on the independent scene. I want to know, do you think we'll get to see him wrestle in Reality of Wrestling?
Definitely, I want to bring him to Reality of Wrestling. The thing is, the schedule is, packed, man. This guy's working shows every weekend right now. I called him and actually tried to get him on my last show, and he was booked, and he was like, hey, Coach, I'll get off of it if you want me to. And I'm like, nah, this is the last thing I want you to do. Go out there and get the experience. When it's a moment, a break, I definitely bring him down, but hopefully we'll get that in Reality of Wrestling doing the thing.
Right. Well, speaking of Reality of Wrestling, we got to talk about the big news that you broke a couple weeks ago. This is huge news. You guys are on the CW now.
Yeah, man, 11 a.m. Sunday morning starting September 20th. That'll be awesome. It's something we've been, dreaming about for many, many years now. It's finally come to fruition. We're going to go out there and take the show to the next level, breaking ground on our new facility, 21,000 square feet. The Mall of the Mainland. We should be done with that by October, 1st or mid-October sometime. We're going to be filming all our shows from, the Mall of the Mainland as far as all our television goes, just to make it look right for CW. And, try to put Reality of Wrestling on that next stage, which I think we fare pretty good with TNA and ROH and those guys, I think we're better, actually, so I just think the world needs to see the production.
Absolutely.
I think that's a very exciting time, too. That's Sunday morning, 11 a.m. I remember my brother and we used to watch wrestling on the weekends, and when you have that time off on the weekends, you huddle around the TV, and you get all excited to see all the guys that you wanted to see, and that's just the prime time for kids to be watching that show, to be huddled around the TV and be excited for it, and then want to go see it live.
Absolutely.
It's definitely like it used to be, when I was young coming up, wrestling game on 10 a.m. Sunday morning, for me, 11 a.m. Reality of Wrestling, fans going to get a chance to go to church if they want, and then get back home and get a chance to watch a little wrestling right before football, kick off, So we are the pre-show now. to the NFL. You know, we're going to make sure we represent to the fullest on CW by bringing Houston, as well as trying to get on their other affiliates around the country and make reality of wrestling a household name, just like world-class wrestling used to be back in the day.
Absolutely. You know, I want to ask you, what do you think Paul Bosch would think about this?
Oh man, I think he's watching. You know what I mean? He's looking down. I think he's got something to do with this. You know, so no doubt. I think Paul Bosch would be proud to see wrestling still alive here in the city of Houston, as well as reality of wrestling keeping his name alive at the same time. So I think he would be pretty proud of what we're doing.
Absolutely. Now, with it being an 11 a.m. time slot, primetime TV, like you said, families will be coming back from church even watching wrestling. Is that going to have to affect how your product is presented at all? Are you going to have to change things up, maybe make it more kid-friendly, or is it going to stay the same?
Heck no, man, no. Reality of wrestling is the brand is the brand. We're not changing anything right now. I don't think we do anything to offend anybody. Even right now, we've thought about the process as far as our viewership, the people that's watching, the people that's got eyes on reality of wrestling. The FCC. We're gonna make sure everybody's happy as far as our characters go. Everything, our language. You know what I mean? Reality of wrestling, it's we're going to really take it to the next level, and I can't say exactly what we're getting ready to do, but that's even another part of the plan. But we're really getting ready to do something really, really major, and you guys are going to really, really love it, I think. It's just amazing to see what it's come from the days when it was PWA to now where it's grown to. I mean, I know oftentimes you weren't sure if it was going to make it this far. You got to be so proud, especially of your boys that have been there from the beginning, like the Ryan Davidsons, the Rockstar Robbies, those guys. What is it like? What's the emotion and feeling from them? Oh, man, everybody's on board, man. Everybody's definitely pulling their weight. Everybody's excited about what we are right now. Everybody's been listening to me talk about this for, like I say, the past 10 years. But the thing is, we can't get, lackadaisical. We can't get, too happy. We can't get, sidetracked as far as what the mission is. The work really starts right now. All the real work really is getting ready to start. So what we've done in the past is, been great, bringing us to this point. But right now, man, until we are on a global stage, we cannot relax. And I want my team to stay totally focused and ready to go. We cannot right now lose focus.
Right. Now, Booker, as you know, obviously you and I have known each other for a while, and from that you have had we'll use the word pleasure of getting to know Johnny LaQuasto. And Johnny's not with us in the studio today, but recently Johnny and I are at odds because we have picked sides in a feud that's going on in reality of wrestling. I'm Team Andrew, he's Team Eric. You got the Lockhart brothers feuding. Which one? What team are you, Booker?
I'm neither, man. The Lockhart brothers, they going through their own little thing, you know what I mean? I have nothing to do with that, you know what I mean? I do want both of those guys to grow, here in reality of wrestling. I think they both have grown. Right now, they've grown apart. Hopefully we'll see the brothers come back together and, reunite, such as my brother and I did once upon a time. But that's something that brothers go through. They'll find their way back, when the time is right, But right now, Team Eric, Team Andrew, they're floating on their own ship, right? And I think it's good. I think what Andrew is doing right now, it's really been great for his career. He's definitely stepping out and becoming something different, a different character. And Eric is going to have to follow suit in some way, shape, form, or fashion, because it is a new day, to coin the phrase of a new day.
You know what, Buck? Fine. We're going to shift gears on you a minute here. You mentioned New Day. Now, I remember a while back, you weren't very high on those guys and what they were doing at first. Has your tone changed on that at all?
Oh man, I love the New Day. You know what I mean? They're the best thing going on television right now, and I hope they keep it going. They found themselves. they found themselves in a position where they were fighting upstream, and they literally made it. They pulled it off. The fans didn't like what they were doing, so they used it to their advantage. And now the fans love what the New Day is doing. So I think right now the hottest thing on WWE TV is the New Day.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. Now, Book, we had a couple of your old buddies came back to WWE recently. Those damn Dudley boys, right? And I know you've had your run-ins with them in the day. What do you think we're going to see from them being back on WWE TV?
Oh man, I'm excited. To see the Dudleys back. Actually, Diva was on Heated Conversation this past weekend, and actually it was like a scoop I got. You know what I mean? Finding out exactly what was going on with the contract. Are those guys back full time? Are they back part time? What's the future plans for the Dudleys? And Diva said, man, they're here, man. They're here to stay. They're back home in the WWE, and they plan on making their history, their final run with the WWE, and they are full time. So I'm excited to see Dudley's back in the WWE. And, there's a place where they should be. To finish a career that the way they should finish it. For what they have given to the business, I think they're in the right place. Definitely at the right time.
Well, speaking of that, I remember a couple months ago when I was at Reality of Wrestling down there, a certain challenge was laid out to you by Devon. He said, anytime, any place, he wants Harlem Heat, right? Now, I remember we all kind of laughed it off, but, with your brother signing that Legends contract with WWE recently, do you think we might ever get to see that?
Hey, man, I never say never or anything like that. You know what I mean? WrestleMania is coming around. It's going to be in Texas next year. It'll be a great place to actually do that if they want to do it. I wouldn't mind having one last WrestleMania run. If it was going to happen, if I had to put my boots on, I definitely could, manage to suck it up to put my boots on for one last WrestleMania run, 100,000 people. So if it happened, definitely I'll be game for it. Definitely keeping my stuff in shape in case something like that do happen to go down. Still got my white boots and my white tights, so I'll be ready. If that call calling.
More importantly, do you have your supply of Breathe Right strips ready?
Hey man, we like I say, always be expected. I always expect the unexpected. You know what I mean? So we are ready, man. We are prepared and ready to go. I know my brother's ready, man. He's excited. He's like, man, he's
looking like he's in
all over again. You know what I mean? So definitely, if the call comes, man, I'll be ready. I'll be ready to get it done.
Speaking of Stevie, he's gotten himself in great shape.
Hey man, he said he was going to get back in shape. You know what I mean? And do this thing, he says get the buzz, people calling him for bookings, so hey man, my brother's down, man. He's down with it. Right now, like I say, for me, I don't foresee myself putting my boots on ever again unless it was a situation like the Harlem Heat versus the Dudleys or something like that. Otherwise, I have no interest in getting back in the ring. I love what I'm doing right now. Love Reality of Wrestling. I love working from behind the scenes, taking my company to the next level, seeing exactly how far we can take this thing. Still so much more work to do.
Absolutely. Well, one question that's been burning on everyone's minds, Booker, is, you were part of the announce team prior to Tough Enough, and then when Tough Enough came, obviously, it was you had to go down there and do that. Are we going to see you back on the announce team anytime soon, or what's Booker T's role with WWE now?
Hey, I'll start back next week on SmackDown. On next week, I would have been there this week, but I had to get a ingrown toenail removed.
Well, that's really exciting though, because you're going to be with Rich then.
Yeah, me and Rich gonna be calling the play-by-play together, man. My student who started at my school, and actually my pupil, started at my school, and now we're gonna be actually side by side. So actually, that's gonna be pretty cool. Starting next week on SmackDown.
Now, how is that gonna work though, Book? Because it's almost like like you said, he's your student, he's your pupil, and apparently he's the new head SmackDown commentator.
Hey man, I'm giving him his props, man. That's what he does. He's a commentator. I'm finalists. I'm totally just stepping in, and I'm just going to fill in and do my part. But I'm definitely going to give Rich the reins to go out there and do what he does. If he needs to direct me in a certain way, definitely point me in the direction. That's what I'm there for. But it's his show, man. It's his show.
Absolutely. Well, Booker, man, it's always a pleasure to talk with you on this show. You know, don't forget, this is your show, too. You are one of the compadres. You're the godfather of this show, man.
Just keep me connected, bro. Just keep me connected.
Absolutely, brother. Well, listen, man, we always appreciate your time. You know, they can find you on Twitter at BookerT5X. They can find you every week on Heated Conversations on Sports Radio 610 and online. And they can find you now on the CW.
Catch me on the C-Dub, September 20th. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to get shut out, boys.
All right, Book. Well, thank you for your time, man, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Back to my dinner with my kids and the family. Holla back.
All right, later, Book. Guys, it is always awesome when Booker stops by. I think he really has helped us put this show on the map when we started out, and I'm always appreciative of him when he comes on and takes the time with us, you know? Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think about what he had to say about Tough Enough?
Lies. All lies. Big bed of lies. No, I mean, I like someone saying not just everything that the WWE put out there, like, oh, yeah, no, everyone should have won who won. Right. I like that he had a difference of opinion. I like that he said that the fans shouldn't be voting for the winners the whole way through, that, yeah, maybe there's a certain crop of guys that they can eliminate, but not judge the entire thing.
Yeah. I think that Tough Enough is a really interesting thing that just happened, because for so long you get so many people complaining about, oh, the WWE doesn't listen to the fans, the WWE doesn't do what the fans want, the WWE does whatever they want, and they tell us what to like. And then the second that they have a show that specifically listens to the fans, that specifically does what the fans want, the backlash immediately became, this is stupid, the fans don't know anything. So no matter what the WWE does, they can't win with the fans.
Between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, but it's funny because we just talked to Booker T, and I just talked to Lita in New York City a week ago, and that interview video will be on SB Nation and Cage Side Seats within the next 2 weeks. I talked to her about the Tough Enough experience, and she pointed out that the trainers work with these guys every day, the trainers see them every day, the Tough Enough contestants, but they're not involved in the decisions at all. Like, it goes to the judges and it goes to the fans, and the judges,
that doesn't make sense.
The judges
to me.
have a save and the fans have the vote. And Lita, she said specifically, like, wouldn't it be nice if the trainers got to have a say in the situation?
I mean, maybe they can restructure, because it seems like that seems to be the general consensus then from the trainers, you know?
Yep.
We don't agree with some of the decisions that are being made because of what we're seeing that you're not,
right.
You know? And I think Booker made a really good point that, while it's a reality show per se, they're not trying to find the next big reality star.
Yeah.
They're trying to find the next WWE superstar.
But the good thing about Tough Enough, and I think that everyone knows this, everyone knew it going in, everyone knows it now, the WWE and the trainers and the judges, they really know who has a future in this. So, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if we end up seeing 6 or 8 of these contestants eventually get a developmental contract out of Tough Enough. Because I know for a fact Josh is going to be awesome. He's going to be great. He's not only, because the last time Tough Enough was on, when Stone Cold Steve Austin hosted it, mm-hmm. and you had Cameron doing her infamous Melina Lisha.
Oh my God!
The guy who won that season, everyone thought he was a joke. They were like, he obviously won.
Andy Levine?
Yeah, they're like, he obviously won because that's what WWE looks for. Like, it was the thought at the time. Matt Cross got eliminated like the first or second week, mm-hmm. And he was like the indie darling at the time on the show, and Andy Levine won. People were like, well, he obviously just got picked because of the way he looks. He's never going to do anything. And then he didn't do anything. But Josh looks like Andy looks, kinda, but he's clearly, like, he's got great charisma. He's got an awesome look. He
has an athletic background.
Yeah, he can go in the ring. Like, he's actually good. And so I think that Josh has a really big future if they do something, with him. I think that he can go a really long way. I think that Sarah Lee can eventually put it together. I think Amanda's going to get a contract out of this. I think Gio's going to get a contract out of this. I know Patrick and Mata are going to get at least looks out of this.
Yeah, I have a feeling some of them will probably end up back at NXT in the training and see if Absolutely. They can, make it. Maybe one of the things they could do that would be cool is be like, the trainers have a pick that's like, all right, you have your winners, and now, of all the contestants that were here, the trainers get to call one back and say he's our winner. And he goes and he gets an automatic NXT contract or something.
Oh yeah, that's a really good idea too. But I think like 4 or 5 months from now, like they can't do it right now because it will look too bad. 4 or 5 months from now, you're going to see a lot of these people getting contracts, and deservedly so. And I also think that, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think ZZ is popular enough and people just like, that personality enough that, if ZZ were to work at it for a couple years, like pretty hard, you could see him back. I think that he can start taking indie bookings right now. Like Patrick took indie bookings like the second he was off the show, and now he's working every weekend like for the whole year,
And it's to their advantage too that they've put in all this TV time for these people who are now our characters in a way. And fans feel strongly one way or the other about them.
For sure.
So, start utilizing them, start putting them on TV, and you got to legitimize the show again, since there's always a huge break in between Tough Enough, and it either falls apart or the winner doesn't go through. Yeah. But, you got to start pushing these guys somewhere and go, see, they're doing something on our show. Yeah. Here's the next Tough Enough again.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I even think, with them having their network, there's so much they could do, be like a retry or something, second chance opportunity show, like on the, you know what I mean?
Tough Enough Redemption or whatever.
Yeah, just anything, because some of those guys really are. You could even bring back people from past seasons, you know what I mean? Like
Maven?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
Maven's finally back. I'm so excited.
Is he really?
Yeah, Brian Myers just brought him back to
Creator Pro, right?
Creator Pro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Does he still have the eyebrows?
I think it's going to be a one-off. Of course, you can't get
unless he's a bad guy,
Yeah. I think it's going to be like I think it was just a one-off, but I'm just excited that someone was able to
use
Maven to come back. Okay, we can all agree on this, right? Like Maven has like the greatest theme song, like the biggest theme song to wrestler disparity of like all time. Like such a good theme song.
That was a really, really solid theme song that he had.
Yeah. Something. Like I told you guys today, I want to try and do the show a little bit differently because oftentimes talking about the same things that are happening in WWE, and we will get to Raw here in a minute, and we'll talk a little more PWG. But we're talking about how these guys are working the indies, and we think that a lot of them will be able to come back to NXT. And you and I were having a really interesting conversation this weekend, Bill. I think, and it's really about Triple H and what he has done for indie wrestling recently. You know, like for a long time, there's been this stigma with the WWE where they don't want to touch indie guys and they don't want to and I think Triple H has really changed that. And so would you credit the success that some of these indie promotions and the eyes and stuff that are on them now, would you say that Triple H deserves some credit for that success that the indies are having right now?
I'd say in part, yeah. Not the entire thing, but obviously when they went through getting now Seth Rollins, now Cesaro, now Kevin Owens, all these guys that were on these big platforms in the indies before, and they're finally getting brought in and getting major characters and getting major pushes, and then all those other places can then put out those DVDs and go, hey, he was here when, and that happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
when
the last
CM
time that
Punk
happened,
like when CM Punk got like big, ROH is able to put out like Best of CM Punk. PWG was able to put out their PWG Sells Out DVD where they had all the former, like they put out this series of DVDs that had like Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and AJ Styles, and like all these guys.
Joe.
Joe.
And that's any big time wrestling nerd, which we all are, that once we see someone that we hadn't seen somewhere before, back when we weren't following everybody, it's, oh, well, what did that guy do before this? Right. And then you go and you're exposed to another show and you go, oh, that's around here? Like, that's going to come through my town? Yeah. I think that's always great when that happens. And they were, in part, responsible for that. But now it's a closer world. So now you can go on Twitter, you can see matches, someone can send you something real quick, and you can just have it real fast rather than wait for a tape in the mail or something like that of some show.
Like the WWE and TNA and the indies have always had like a sort of synergistic relationship, but now, like especially like from the time of like CM Punk and Bryan Danielson really getting huge, I think now WWE like finally definitively understands like there's only so many ex-football players that are going to want to get into this. There's not a bunch of huge dudes anymore because the big dudes dudes and the like legitimate athletes are going to MMA, or they're going to like other, like, you know, they're doing CrossFit training or whatever you want to do. Like, there's so many more outlets for them, instead of like, oh, I blew my knee out and can't do football anymore, I'll try WWE,
and
that sort of thing.
And being really competitive still,
right?
Because I feel that's what Lesnar had there for a while. Because it's like, I did this because I could make money at it real fast, but I'm not competing.
Right.
Like, I know I'm better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And Angle had a bit of that too, I felt. But then he just grew to love it. But I think most guys who are athletes still want to be really competitive. It's not necessarily the show that does it for them.
Yeah, I think WWE now realizes, like, the next guys that are going to come up, the people who are going to keep this industry going, are the guys on the indies who look like they look, you know, and there's nothing that can be done about it. But the great thing about when they get brought into WWE and NXT, WWE, you know, a lot gets said about WWE style and how they changed indie workers to be WWE style. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
They have to last.
They teach them not only how to help preserve their bodies a little bit more. I mean, it's a hell of a grind still. You're on the road 300 days a year.
But how to make each part of that match matter and keep a story going.
Like we saw in PWG this weekend. There are a ton of dudes who can do a million moves. There's a ton of dudes who can
do crazy stuff,
blow your mind, completely blow your mind. And there's there's guys like Zack Sabre and Marty Scurll who can just do a mat clinic. Right?
And we're gonna come back to that match in a minute, because
the two of the guys who impressed me the most this weekend were Drew Galloway and Matt Sydal.
Yeah.
Drew Galloway had a match with Speedball Mike Bailey that was on the night you missed.
Of course. I heard, though.
So amazing. Like, Drew Galloway can do crazy stuff. He can do amazing stuff. He can be a base for a dude who can do mind-blowing stuff like Mike Bailey can do. But he knows how to make every part of that match matter. And Matt Sydal especially. When you saw Matt Sydal in the Indies when he was in ROH, he's the dude who can do mind-blowing flips, and he can do that shooting star press. But now he's the dude who can do the shooting star press to end the match. But he can also put together a whole match that tells an amazing story, slow down, make sure people are looking at what they need to look at, make sure people are paying attention, and never lose that crowd.
Right. Now, we're back on PWG. I think one of the most exciting things for me this weekend was getting to see Richard Swann, because as we know, he's
and
on
Biff
Busick, and that guy impressed the hell out of me, having never seen him before. You know, like, they're both on their way to WWE, and I think that's really, you know, gonna play up what you just said. You know, like, Rich is someone who we saw, he has the comedy aspect of wrestling down, he has the hard-hitting style, he has the ability to do crazy flips and moves, and I think, you know, he has it.
Yeah.
I think there's a little dynamic to match structure for him that's missing right now, and I think that once he gets
they're
going to give it to him, and I think that he's someone that's really going to excel
for sure
in NXT.
I just said this on our podcast, Rudo Radio, which comes out Wednesdays. I just said this on our podcast, but Rich Swann and Biff Busick, both great signings for WWE. But I think that Rich Swann, when he gets to NXT, he's immediately going to be a bunch of people's favorite wrestlers, because he can do amazing stuff. He's an exceptional high flyer. But I think Biff Busick isn't really going to shine until he gets to the WWE main roster, because I think that Biff Busick can be a really cool dude in NXT, but I think that once he gets to the main roster, he's really going to show people what Biff Busick's all about, which is telling a story, having charisma, and doing these slow burning matches that get really intense.
His style reminded me a bit of what Cesaro is right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, I
think said that, Chuck turns to me and he's like, this guy's like the indie Cesaro right now. And I was like, that's funny, because we were watching Claudio Castagnoli on the indies for like 9 years.
Right? And, you know what, and that's, you know, that worries me a little bit for him too, you know, because I still don't think WWE utilizes Cesaro right. You know, I still don't think that they're using that man to his full potential and what he could be, you know?
Well, it's always tricky too when their roster is completely overloaded.
Right.
Yeah. But that worries me, that someone like a Biff will get lost in the mix and in the shuffle. And
I don't think he has to, because I mean, you know, like you said, it was your first exposure to Biff. Like he sort of has a similar thing to Cesaro in some respects, but they're completely different. Like, Cesaro's a freak of nature.
Well, we saw that on Raw this week with
Yeah.
what he was doing to Kevin Owens.
He's one of the strongest dudes that I've ever seen in professional wrestling. He can do stuff that nobody else can do. Plus, he's just like flat out one of the greatest wrestlers in the entire world. Biff Busick's a really good wrestler, but he's got his own thing, you know.
Right.
People. So Biff Busick's part of this new movement in wrestling that some people are calling grapple fuck, which is Biff Busick, Drew Gulak, Timothy Thatcher, and a few other people are doing this sort of like no knee pads, like old school.
Man.
No, but they're not doing flips or anything.
Okay.
They're just
He's just a brawler.
they're grappling and they're punching people in the face.
And they,
all right.
Yeah.
and he did it masterfully. Like it was beautiful to watch because it was different. And when I say different, it's like it's that old school style that we're so not used to seeing anymore, you know. And that brings me back around to, of course, my favorite match of the weekend: Marty Scurll versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, Scott, you're a big fan of UK wrestling and you know all that.
I just remember Tommy End's former tag team. They were called the Sumerian Death Squad.
They're still together, I think.
Are they still together?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. That's just the best tag team name I've ever heard.
You know, this match that Marty and Zach had must have gone on for at least 35, maybe even 40 minutes.
It's at least 30 minutes,
Yeah, and this was like, you know, now, I know a lot of people were upset that it went that long, and they said, you know, like, oh, it's too late in the night, and it's the third day, and it's this, but, you know,
They got to make you walk away knowing their names.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I will never forget that match as long as I live, because it was all just locks and holds and reversals and like minor flips and you know, but there was comedy involved in it. There was, you know, intensity. They obviously had mutual respect for each other, and it was a slow burning match that honestly could have gone either way.
For sure.
There was a ton of, you know, this match it was pure wrestling. You know, it was one of those matches where a guy like Kurt Angle would have watched it and been like, damn, that was impressive.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that that's going to be the match that people look at on DVD, and it's going to become, definitely has the potential to become one of those legendary indie matches, like the ROH 3-way and like the Dragon Gate 6-man. It has that potential to be like, you have to see this match. Like people show it to each other.
Yeah. Right.
Like in the building, like I was burned out. I was dead.
Yeah,
I could still, my brain could still appreciate like, wow, this is a phenomenal match, but my body was being like, not right now. This is no.
We've only had nachos and beer. We have to rest.
But people who go to PWG, and sometimes to the detriment of the live crowd, people who go to PWG and wrestle, they understand 40 times more people are going to watch this on DVD than are in the building. Right. So we can burn out a crowd in the building because this is going to help our careers. Right. And good for them, and that's fine. And I understand that. But like I said, sometimes it's just to the detriment of the live crowd.
My only question is, how the hell is Marty Scurll not signed somewhere? How is Zack Sabre Jr. not signed somewhere? Because these two guys, like...
Well, I know why Zack Sabre Jr. is not signed somewhere. Because he looks like Zack Sabre Jr.
True.
He looks like, DJ's boyfriend on Full House.
Fair enough, but what's your reason for Marty?
Short.
That's
one of the only reasons. The biggest reason is he's in the UK, because I had never heard of the guy until he was announced for PWG, and I had never seen the guy until he was in the building with me.
Well, I remember when I think he was on season 1 or 2 of British Boot Camp, right? The TNA thing. And Scott, you would have to remind me which one it was, but it was the season that obviously Spud won.
Yeah.
So first one, I believe.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, you can see why Spud won, rightfully so. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason that TNA shouldn't have come back later and offered this man a contract. Mm-hmm. There's, because, and he's perfected his gimmick. He's funny. He can play heel. He can play babyface. He's obviously a heel right now, but the guy just. Listen, if anyone's listening that makes decisions anywhere, sign Marty Scurll.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's making decisions, they got to keep their eye on the UK more because they're so hungry over there right now. Progress Wrestling, you're putting on amazing shows.
Everyone, like I can honestly say, and I think everyone that was on this PWG show this weekend, everyone was phenomenal. But I think
this is going to be a huge weekend. This is going to be a huge deal for the careers of all 4 of the UK guys who came over here.
But I truly believe that the UK wrestlers on this show stole the show.
Yeah,
And I
for
don't
sure.
think that this weekend would have been half as impactful as a wrestling show had it not been for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think it's time that we talk a little WWE
All right.
because I could talk PWG the rest of this show with you guys, but
It's too bad he wasn't there.
I know we're gonna have
We
to get
definitely
you to
have a lot
one,
more to say.
Scott.
I'd like to go. I'd like to get up all dressed up in my tuxedo, learn the secret knock, say the password.
You,
let that
you
gorilla
definitely
let me
don't
in.
want to wear a tuxedo in there. It's way too hot.
All right.
I'll get you an extra ticket next time if I can.
Thank you, Bill. That's very kind of you.
But what we do have to discuss right now is that damn vigilante Sting was back on Raw this week. Mm-hmm. You're shaking your head, Bill.
I mean, he stole a statue. He's just going around like thieving things
At
and like bringing property.
WrestleMania, Triple H was man enough to stand up and shake my hand after he beat me. And at Night of Champions, I'm gonna prove that on his best day, Seth Rollins is not half the man that Triple H is.
It's true. I mean, we can all agree that Triple H is probably the greatest and most noble person who's ever lived.
I think we have to keep the show on the air.
As a fan of Triple H's when I was little, he has always been one of my favorite wrestlers. Put all the stories, all the stuff you hear, I don't care about any of that. Strictly looking at in-ring, the dude is one of the best of
Yeah,
all
he's
time.
a legend. I mean, nothing that Sting was saying was
Incorrect.
false.
No, and
I mean, yeah, purely from a kayfabe perspective. Like,
Yes. Yes.
purely from you
Yes.
know, regardless of who's writing the lines or whatever. Like if you're legitimately treating WWE at face value,
Right.
he's right.
And you know what? I liked that promo last night or this week on Raw because it gave purpose to we're all sitting here like, what? Why is Sting going after this? There's no point to this feud at first. We're all like scratching our heads like, why? It
yeah,
gave
that's what you were doing. Yes,
a lot of people, Scott,
I was fine with it. I thought it was awesome.
but it gave it purpose, and
Yes.
I like the direction they're taking this. So I pose you guys this question. How cool would it be to see Sting as the WWE champion, even if it's just for like a night?
Still very. As I thought last week, like, yeah, of course it would be rad. I mean, I love what Seth's doing and the momentum, and it was great when watching that Raw because I was wrapped up in it going, he's probably not going to win, Sting, but what if he did? And that's why I'm excited to watch it because, yeah, what if Sting does have the championship?
Well, here's what I want to pose to you two, and it goes through Raw a little bit, but it's outside of Raw as well. Obviously, we know that after this week's Raw, Seth Rollins is wrestling twice at Night of Champions because every title has to be on the line, of course.
Good, yeah.
And Cena's promo to make that happen and Stephanie's involvement, masterful. It was a really just a great showing of putting this whole storyline together. I think that Seth Rollins should lose both titles at Night of Champions. And I think that should be the beginning of him turning on Triple H and becoming a face again to maybe reunite with the Shield at some point to face this new Wyatt clan.
Chuck's master plan. So what do you pose to us? You just told us your plan.
What I pose to you is, how would you all feel if Seth Rollins walked out of Night of Champions with no titles?
Well, I think Bill also has to weigh in on the fact of, are you excited for the fact that Sting could win the title, or is this just, does it not hold that meaning to you?
I mean, I have nothing against Sting, but like, I don't.
Okay, but
That's fair.
Well, let me pose a different question to you of the same variety.
Sure.
You have a man like Sting who, I mean, whether you've been a fan of his or not throughout the years, the man is a legend in the business. He's done stuff and helped solidify wrestling for so many people.
Yeah.
This guy, how can you have someone like that come into WWE and lose every match he ever wrestles? You know? It's almost like a disrespect thing to him, you know?
Yeah.
Because for Sting to go out and cut the promo that he did on Raw this week, I think it took a lot of, took a lot of balls on his part because
well, one of the things about Sting and for him being around as long as he has been and being on top for as long as he has been, you've never heard any story about like him pulling weight, him playing politics. Like Sting's whole defining thing has basically been like Sting has done whatever he's been told, like for his entire career. Like for like 7 or 8 years in WCW, he looked like the stupidest man in the world. Like he was always trusting everyone, and they would always turn on him. And like he's Sting.
He's a good worker.
Yeah, he just does what's told of him. So like for me, like him saying that stuff about Triple H, like that wasn't surprising to me. That was just like Sting being Sting. And if Sting comes in and loses every match, I'm not going to look any differently at Sting or think that that's disrespect to him or anything, because he is Sting. You would think he would have the power to be like, no, or like, let's do a fuck finish, or like, you know.
But that's all the more reason why I feel like he deserves and has earned the right that he deserves that respect given back to him.
My only issue, and if he wins the title, I think it'll be fun, and I think that would be really cool for him. But my only issue with him beating Seth Rollins now is that with the storyline they've been telling with Seth Rollins, I don't think this is the way it should end. Like, I don't think it should be Sting.
But
like,
well, look, we have to realistically look at it like this too. If Seth Rollins were to lose to Sting, obviously he has a rematch clause, and you'd have some way for him to win it back, fine, or something, or just something where I think you keep the Seth Rollins story going, because I don't think he needs the titles that much longer at this point. I really don't. I think. And I just, for Sting to come out and cut that promo and give that respect to Triple H after taking, the loss at WrestleMania to Triple H, that's a big, sign of respect and towards Triple H. And, like you said, Sting never argues and does what he's told. But at some point, man, you got to give the fans kind of that moment with Sting in WWE.
Well, you're saying that Rollins doesn't need the titles much longer. I think that if he walks out of Night of Champions with no titles, I think it's a little bit too early to completely remove all of his power.
Yeah, when he just got it all.
Yeah. I think it's a little too early. Like, I think it's pretty likely that he at least loses the U.S. title back to Cena, and I think that's great because of what Cena's been doing with the U.S. title. Like, Cena's
been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's the best wrestler in the world this year. Like, he's been the wrestler of the year, and I don't think that anyone can dispute that. I still don't
get why people are hating on him right now.
They're always gonna hate on everything, man.
That promo on Raw this week was beautiful.
Yeah, But I think that he wins the U.S. title. I think it's a little too early to have Seth Rollins lose both titles cleanly in one night.
I can see that. I think that's a fair point. Yeah. I won't disagree with that. I'm just.
It's an exciting time again. Like they're shaking everything up. You do have Sting fighting for the WWE title in his second WWE match. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. Like this is just so weird. Fun.
Well, I'll tell you what too. I think they did a really good job of building that story just from last week to this week, because as you know, my opinion was very different last week about it. Very different. And they sold me from Raw this week. I thought it was another great Raw. Mm-hmm.
Sting can speak in cliches and be amazing at it. He can say just generic stuff and put so much fire behind it that other guys just can't. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such an important thing for him to do. Like Triple H and Seth Rollins have mastered the 20-minute promo where they say everything 4 times over. Good job. Like the editing department is so happy with you because they have all the sound bites now. But Sting can just go and say a few lines and get everybody excited for it, which is kind of a lost art right now.
For sure.
And I think that's something that needs to be looked at amongst the younger guys. Like, they need to look at him for that. Sting's not the best in the world at everything, but his ability to do that and connect with people, for a large part of the audience that doesn't even know him. They just know this mystique and idea of him.
Right.
Well, I'm thoroughly impressed by Sting right now. One, he looks to be in phenomenal shape, just amazing shape, and he looks like he's ready to go. I see there's a fire in him that, during my time at TNA, I had a few encounters with Sting. I don't know him super well, but, there was always like a, head nod or whatever, a kind few words to each other. And I will never forget, it was after one of the Bound for Glories that Sting had a big match. And it was when TNA started doing those interviews after their matches. Remember, for a little bit, they tried doing that post-interview thing. Right. I had the distinct pleasure of going to get Sting from the gorilla position and tell him, hey, they need you over here for such and such, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember on the way walking there, we had like a little tiny conversation where he's like, man, I can't believe I made it through another one. I think I'm done after this, you know? Like, I just don't have it anymore. And I was like, nah, man, you still got it after seeing that. But, you know, like, you could tell that the guy was, like, tired. You could tell that the guy was kind of over it. And maybe that was just because he was at TNA and that'll do it to you. But it's really cool to see him rejuvenated. Looks like years younger than he is right now, you know, and he looks like he's ready to go.
It's like the fan appreciation tour.
Yeah.
That, you know, he was still working really hard in TNA and still put through the grinder, but now it's just fans get to see him, if it is for one last run, and just get to see him live. Like, oh, I was there at that show when, and I got to see him, and I got to see him wrestle Seth, or I got to see him wrestle Triple H.
I'm intrigued to see how this match will go.
Yeah,
I really am. So, listen.
In my mind, like, I've been beating this drum for a while now, but like, we're clearly living in the greatest generation of pro wrestling that's ever existed. Like,
okay,
from indies to WWE to NXT to everything. Like, people talk a lot. I'm not a champion of the Attitude Era. Okay. I think if you go back and look at Attitude Era, most of it doesn't hold up. But I think that just from in-ring talent to the level of talent to the diversity of talent, just up and down, like, we're living in the greatest wrestling era right now. We have the ability to see so much at our fingertips at all times. Everything that's coming out is of such high quality from so many different angles.
And they have to be, too, because if it's not high quality, you're not going to watch it. And it'll get lost in the shuffle of all the other great stuff.
Right. So even when you have a Raw that, like, came out this week that people were crapping all over.
This week's Raw?
Yeah, this week's Raw.
Why were people crapping on this week's Raw? What was the only thing to me that was slightly cheesy about this week's Raw was the whole Dolph Ziggler Lana story.
Right.
And you know what?
That happened, Chuck. That was real.
You know what though? And
he assaulted her with his nakedness.
We should all be so lucky.
We should all be assaulted by Dolph with his nakedness.
Yeah. But you know what? Even with as cheesy as that whole thing might have been, I like the fact that it didn't just be, you know, we get a little snippet and that's it. I like that they continued it throughout the entire Raw because it made it feel like you weren't just watching, you know, segment after segment of just like vignettes put together and like no purpose. It gave it like you're actually watching a television show and there was a story and through line that made it matter and kept you invested.
Right.
You know? And I like that. That was one of my favorite parts about the Attitude Era when the whole show mattered and it wasn't, you know, we got stuff throughout from the same people. It made us care about that character and that story.
Yeah.
What did people not like about Raw this week?
Well, you know, like I said before, people are always going to complain about everything, regardless of what's
John Cena.
Happening. So people were really upset that almost everything on the show is a rematch from SummerSlam, which who cares? Like,
yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago.
People were like, when they said coming up after break, Cesaro's gonna fight Kevin Owens. People on Twitter were like, "Oh God, I can't believe are you seriously complaining about another Cesaro Kevin Owens match? What's wrong with you?"
Did they watch that match?
Like, people complain. Okay, people complain that they're not giving Cesaro and Kevin Owens airtime, and then they complain that they're just wrestling each other. Like, that's not going to be the best thing ever. And then people complain about, like, oh yeah, you know what? This Divas Revolution is dead in the water because it's all just multi-person matches and they're not challenging for the title anymore. So they say, hey, we're gonna have a beat the clock challenge, so you get a bunch of singles matches, so we can find out who's gonna wrestle Nikki for the title. And it was like, beat the clock. That's a bunch of crap. That's the way to kill the Divas Revolution.
That was a great, in my mind, that was a great story because it felt like, you know, like, yeah, they're all gonna be happy for each other, whatever. But you could tell that it was already like some little, like, you know, just from facial reactions, some little riffs and the, you know, armor are being created, and it's. I think they're, you know, everyone's been crapping on the Divas Revolution. I've been very happy with the way they've done it thus far.
I think it's been awesome, like, the whole way up until now. I think it's been great.
I think I'm very happy Charlotte's wrestling her. I think it's gonna be a great match. But I was really rooting for Becky Lynch. That's who I think of all the ones that they're really focusing on, she's not being credited for how great of a wrestler she truly is.
Among NXT fans, she is.
Right. Yeah, she's the Eli Drake of that group, huh?
You know, I was sitting there with my buddy last night. I was like, I'm a really big fan of Becky Lynch. I want to buy her T-shirt, and he goes, it's probably not a good idea for a man to wear a shirt that promotes beating women. You know, so it's like,
well, it was really bad before they put her name on the shirt. Because when they originally released that shirt, it just said Last Kicker. It didn't say Becky Lynch. It just said Last Kicker, and they had it in men's shirts, and people were like,
no, you can't do that.
They put out that shirt, and they put out the Hideo Itami shirt at the same time that had the Rising Sun Japanese flag on it, and people were like, no, you can't do that.
And then they brought the Sin Cara penis T-shirts back out.
Yes.
That's good.
I don't know if you heard about the Sin Cara penis T-shirts. Someone just found a huge stash of them. They're selling them on eBay.
I want one. Yeah. That sure was hilarious.
How much are they selling for?
I don't know, but you can go check it out. Someone found like a box of like 100 of them or something.
That's amazing.
Will do.
Everyone's gonna be walking around with Sin Cara dicks in 2 weeks.
So I want to talk about some friends of our show here. You know, Booker alluded to them being the best thing on WWE TV earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. New Day. We have to talk about this. These guys are unbelievable right now. And I don't think Booker was out of line to say that this is the best thing on WWE TV.
It absolutely is. I don't think anyone's debating that.
It's right up there.
So again, how when you get something like that on a Raw, can you crap on the Raw?
I don't know, man.
Because Xavier Woods continues each week. He continues to find new ways to entertain us, shock us, and do stuff that we're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they brought a table out bubble wrapped and started to protect the table movement. Come on, that's amazing.
Yeah, they're taking such a simple idea that you're surprised hasn't existed, and all the time the Dudleys have been doing stuff with tables, that they've got this idea and they're making it fun. So it's not just something that's by the numbers or scripted, and you go like, all right, well they did whatever they were told. No, they're so fun.
And even bringing the Dudleys back as the team to challenge New Day is so brilliant because at this point you're not going to be able to boo New Day much longer if you're still booing them. But like Dudley Boys, that's like the one like bulletproof team. Like people are going to root for the Dudley Boys to put somebody through a table, no matter who they're going up against.
And when they pulled him out and saved him on Raw this week, like come on, that was a huge heel move and huge heat, and that was great
for sure.
You know, I often won't give Bubba Ray any credit because for whatever our personal history is, but I gotta tell you, I'm actually really excited to see him and Xavier in a ring together because, you know, they both were at TNA together, and that's to me kind of cool in a way that they're both now back where they should be, or one's back where he should be and one is where he always belonged, you know. So that's cool, and I think it's kind of crazy how when you actually look at what's going on in WWE right now, a good number of those people actually are from the TNA roster. You got Sting,
you got 3 guys who are TNA Hall of Famers fighting for titles.
It's true.
You know, there you go.
It's pretty crazy.
You know, the Xavier Woods thing, like, I'm so happy for the guy, and I'm so happy for us that we get to be entertained by him for so long, but man, he's always had this, and this is why he's always, like, you know, his charisma, his personality is why he's always had, you know, like a job in wrestling for the past over many years. But I cannot believe that it has taken until now for this dude to be able to show it on TV. Like when he was Consequences Creed, like, you know, he never got a chance in TNA to really show like what he had.
I don't know if it's being comfortable. I'd like to think it's in large part because he's working with his friends. You know, that it's that hey man, I got your back, and we're just gonna be goofy. We're gonna do our thing.
And also, he at the point where New Day finally broke through, I think part of it probably had to do with like, we don't have anything to lose at this point. Like if we don't make it here right now as a team,
that's it.
There's not much left especially for Xavier.
You know, well, Xavier, especially, you know, like you talked about, it's surprising that it's taken this long, you know, and here's something rare that's going to happen on this show. I'm going to say something positive about Dixie Carter.
Wow.
I know.
You say it's rare. I think this is the first time.
Probably the only time. I remember when Xavier, who was Consequences Creed at the time, and TNA, was first coming in. And we, you know, for some reason, TNA decided to have staff meetings where important stuff was discussed. And everyone in the office was allowed was supposed to be at those staff meetings. I'm talking even the interns, all the way up to the top person, which really makes no sense when you're talking about massive decisions that a company's making, but whatever. Still had to get my little dig in at Dixie there, you know. But she said something in those meetings that I will never forget, and I obviously don't remember exact verbiage of it, but she said, we need to do something with this guy. He's special. And I remember that being said, and I remember they tried to push him, but for some reason what they were trying just wasn't working. But I do remember her saying that, and I will give her credit for that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know?
And I think that employers, you know, from Dixie to Triple H to Vince to everybody, I think all of his employers have like known the guy and seen him and been like, he has something special, but haven't understood a way to get that
out
specialness
there
of him onto television.
Right, and I think that's why he's been able to have longevity to his career, because, you know, he's very well spoken. So even if you don't have necessarily something we can use you for on TV right now, they were using him to go out and do promotional work and talk and do interviews. I mean, the guy is he's working on his doctorate while he's on the road. Like the guy is just he truly is special.
And even on the show like Swerved, where you're watching Swerved, and anytime something happens to him, and then it's I'm going to exact revenge, and like I'm going to keep this going. That energetic spirit that he has, where it's he knows it's a platform to have more fun and be goofy and prank back. Like he wants in on it. He wants in on whatever it is, and it's great that it finally has come out for the guy.
Yeah.
I agree.
And we should also make sure to plug his YouTube channel, Up Up Down Down, which is a lot of fun.
The guy, you know, he's come on our show before. He's a friend of the show. You know, I'm not sure if he listens or not. I don't know, but you know, if you happen to
get doctorate, Chuck, do you think he has time for this?
Yes.
Does he? All right. Well, good.
Probably, knowing that guy, he's into all this kind of stuff. So maybe, especially, you know, congrats, buddy, because we're all very proud of you, and I hope that you do some more awesome stuff with your hair.
Yes.
And I hope we get to see more gold around your waist on a higher level at some point.
Or gold around his waist
Instead of copper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Well, man, I mean, besides that, you know, like Raw, let's talk about this Ziggler and Lana and all this stuff that's going on.
I cracked up so much when, in the background of that Ryback promo, they saw her going into Ziggler's, and I was like, that's so great. Like, we don't get much of that anymore.
Crossover storylines happening.
Well, not just that, but just like, you know, because, you know, Lucha Underground was so groundbreaking because they treated their backstage stuff, like everything out of the ring, they treated it cinematically. And for once in wrestling, you didn't have to rely on like suspension of disbelief, like, oh, a cameraman happened to be backstage. Like, you just
it was just movie. There, and it was like,
this is fake, so this is a movie. You know, like
it's all presented this way. There's no breaking of the universe.
So like if you're just the idea of like someone backstage forgets a camera's on them, like that's something that we haven't seen in a long time. Like, I'm not saying like do more of that, but just every once in a while, it's so fun.
I agree with you. I cracked up for a different reason though.
What?
I cracked up because you see her looking around, trying to make sure no one's looking, but like not looking right where there's like a camera directed right at.
Sure.
And I'm cracking up and I'm like, this is hilarious.
But what I was hoping was going to happen when I started going to the locker room is I was hoping that it was going to be like, oh, Dolph Ziggler's sleeping with everybody, so you can reveal Dolph Ziggler to be a scumbag, and then reveal like, oh, Rusev's been the good guy all along, like for real. Because he has been the good guy all along.
I thought that to be true anyway.
But I was just hoping that when she went into that locker room, I was like, here's the moment where we can finally like be like when WWE finally says like it's going to be okay to cheer for Rusev because Ziggler's the scumbag in this situation. But then what I really wanted to happen after that is that slowly over the course of 3 hours, everyone goes into Dolph Ziggler's locker room, and then at the end of the show, he's like, I fucked the whole locker room. I'm Dolph Ziggler.
I'm Dolph Ziggler.
Oh man, I am intrigued to see where they take this story now. I mean, obviously there's going to be some fallout next week, and we're going to get.
Well, they're supposed to. I think Miz TV on SmackDown is going to have Ziggler and Lana.
Ooh. All right. Well, I guess we'll get a recap of that on Raw this week.
Which one of us is going to bite the bullet and watch SmackDown?
Not it.
I am it. I watch it here on AfterBuzz TV.
Nice.
Check it out.
Well, I'm glad you make the sacrifice for that.
I do, and most of the time, it is like, well, nothing happens on the show. Past couple weeks, some things have happened on the show. Right. It was the first time the Dudleys wrestled. It was on SmackDown.
And that's even a bigger bummer of like Daniel Bryan getting injured, because you heard about the plan for he had for the Intercontinental title.
No, what?
Well, when he won the Intercontinental title and Cena won the U.S. title at WrestleMania, it was actually Bryan's plan. He said, I want to take an Intercontinental title and have it be a SmackDown exclusive belt and have everyone challenge me every week for it.
Damn.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And then you got injured. So
instead we're getting
Cesaro
Big Show and
we're getting a lot of Cesaro and Owens matches on there, and Cesaro gets to talk on SmackDown.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
For him.
Okay, so great. So obviously Bill and I have not been watching SmackDown. How do you think Cesaro's personality is coming out?
Oh, it's coming out big time on SmackDown. Because he'll do those moments with Kevin Owens where he'll say like, you just keep going on and on and on and on, and you're like, all right, that's the sort of scripted Vince McMahon lines that he gives you, but then he goes further. So it's that South Park rule where it's like, oh, that's kind of funny. All right, it's not funny anymore. Wow, he's doing it that much? It's funny again. Like, he'll just keep going and then have fun with it. So those moments come through. He acknowledges the Cesaro section. He's getting more and more confident in talking about how great he is. So having that bit of arrogance to him.
So
But
why
being able
won't
to
they
back
let
it
him
up.
do this on Raw?
Because Seth Rollins has to talk, man.
He got a little bit of it because they had that Miz TV with him and Owens, and then when Owens stood up and came at him and he was like, you got stuck to your chair.
Yeah, it's coming out more and more. Yeah. It's those guys. It's what Austin talked about on his podcast a long time ago with why aren't these guys taking a chance? And I'm sure it's scary as all hell because they have the dream job, and why would you try and jeopardize that when you should just be a Sting and do as you're told? Yeah. But those guys that are taking those chances, fans notice.
Working.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they are focusing on Cesaro now. They are focusing on Owens now. I think they're both going to be great in the long run. Like, I was outside of Barclays for SummerSlam and Takeover, and I was in the building for the shows, and Takeover especially, man. Like, so many kids and Kevin Owens shirts, which is amazing. Like, so like the last 2 years at WrestleMania, you see a bunch of people in Bray Wyatt cosplay.
Yes.
Just because it's very easy cosplay for a lot of wrestling fans.
Yeah, all the comic book nerds are like, oh, this is great. I just need one of those hats.
I do have a beard. And now the new cosplay is Kevin Owens, because it's just a Kevin Owens shirt with the sleeves cut off and basketball shorts. So it's really easy cosplay for a lot of people. And so that's fun. You know, like, Kevin Owens is a big deal already. He's going to be an even bigger deal. Cesaro,
I hope so.
Cesaro is... People want him to be a big deal, and you can tell the live crowds, they really want him to be a big deal, which means he is a big deal.
I like, you know what, and I like that he's still wearing that sleeve for Tyson Kidd and stuff, because I'm, hopefully they'll still find a way to do something with Tyson when he comes back from this injury, but at the same token, I hope that Cesaro has reached a higher level than they're.
Well, I mean, by the time Kidd comes back, Cesaro will definitely be at a higher level. Like, they're already focusing on him. They're already giving him TV time on both shows. They're giving him high-profile matches at pay-per-views. It's going to be fine. And when people are really worried about somebody, like, when people are really stressed out about, like, they're dropping the ball on this guy, how can they ruin this guy? I just want everyone to keep in mind Chris Jericho. Because for like almost 8 years, the entire internet was like, can you believe they're ruining Chris Jericho? I can't believe they're dropping the ball on this guy. This guy's the biggest. How is he not world champion? And now you look.
Wait, you mean wrestling fans were freaking out about something?
No, I know. But look at Chris Jericho now. He's a no doubt Hall of Famer. He's one of the biggest wrestling stars of all time. He's almost a household name. Every time he comes back, he's a major deal. He's held every world title.
He's a multi-entertainment, success.
Yeah.
The guy's.
But just people freaked out about him for a decade.
It's true.
And in retrospect, it was fine. The whole time it was fine. So that's what I just want people to try and like. I know it's difficult. I know it's really, really hard as a wrestling fan to be like, they're gonna do it to me again. They're gonna ruin everything. Yeah.
They're ruining Ambrose. They're ruining ruining Owens, they're ruining this guy. It's like the second they're not on TV anymore, once they're Zack Rydered, that's when you have to worry.
If they're on TV, they're fine.
Yeah, if they're on TV, they're fine.
Well, then that means Zack Ryder's fine again, right? Because he's on NXT TV.
He's starting to be already.
Certainly more fine than he was a year ago.
Yeah, and the year before
JTG
that,
never got to go to NXT.
Oh, poor JTG. He would have done good there too.
That's the other thing you were talking about, like people like people like Xavier Woods who like keep getting employed because of who they are and what people can see in them. Like, I'm glad that wrestling fans don't get to talk to every superstar for a lot of reasons, but sometimes I wish that wrestling fans could get to interact with these people, because like when you talk to somebody like JTG, you see like, here's a guy who like gets it. He gets the business. He's got charisma. Like,
I think
the guy
JTG,
that makes you smile upon meeting them. You're like,
for sure.
Oh yeah, you should be on TV. Yeah, I get you.
Exactly.
You know, and to Jay's credit too, you will not come across a nicer guy in the business.
Absolutely.
Like, that guy is just friendly. He's always smiling, you know, and I think it was a circumstantial thing for him in a lot of ways too. You know, look, I like Shad. I know a lot of people have their issues with the man, and I'm just gonna simply say, if you've read Jay's book, you know,
if you haven't
read Jay's book, you
really
need to.
It's worth the $3.
Yeah, it's the cheapest wrestling book you can get,
and it's one of the funniest.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think
poor guy for being stuck with Shad for so long.
Because I think that's just a matter of circumstance where, you know, well, this is just, you're a byproduct of what this guy's doing. And again, I know Shad. I like Shad.
Yeah,
Shad's not a bad guy.
For sure.
You know, I think Shad just made some poor decisions in his career.
We're all young and dumb. We're all young and dumb. It's just he happened to be young and dumb
in a more high profile
company.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you know what? Kudos to Shad, because he's doing his thing out here in LA. He's making movies. He's involved with stuff, and he's happy. You know what I mean? And that's really all that you can really ask for in life. So, good on him. The last thing we got to talk about on Raw this week, of course, is the Wyatts and their newest member. What did you guys think of his first showing in a match?
I thought it was cool. I thought they were treating him like a big monster, and I think it's great. I think it's you know, we see that from time to time. Like, I remember when Kali first came in, that it was that way. Nothing hurt him. Yeah. He was unstoppable. And it always works for a little while. And it's working right now for this guy. And I think he's put in the right group, and he fits the role perfectly. He's weird looking. So, yeah, let's keep going. And Ambrose and Reigns are great with it. I love the idea that outside Reigns just gets pissed off at him, and he just wants to start punching him. He can't wait.
Yeah. And it's only going to do Reigns favors, like looking really mortal for a while going up against somebody.
So you have to imagine that this is going to be leading to some sort of, like, you know, Ambrose and Reigns versus the Wyatts. Will we see Ambrose and Reigns with someone else on their team? And if so, who do you think it will be?
JTG.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm all for it.
Brooklyn.
Book it.
Yeah, there's one of two ways you can go with this. Like, I mean, they have to get somebody to counteract Braun at this point, or, you know, within the next few weeks they got to find something to deal with this massive third threat. There's only two things you can do. You either have to get a really big guy, or you have to get a legend. Those are the only two things that can combat.
Well, the rumor before was that it was supposed to be Sting.
Right, and that would have made a lot of sense.
That would have made sense. You can't do that. You know, one of the things I was thinking actually that would, you know, be kind of different that we're not expecting was you got Eric Rowan over there who's been out injured, and we don't know what's up with him, but he was kind of the guy that left the group as like the baby face kind of thing.
That's probably what's going to end up happening.
So I could see Eric Rowan coming in and being like, hey, screw you guys. You think you're going to replace me in the Wyatt family? You think this?
Right.
Boom.
I'd love it, though, if he still screwed over the Shield guys.
And then
still the family.
And did that, and then was like, nah, tricked you. I'm with them.
Well, see, the best thing about Eric Rowan being the third guy is that he has a thing with the Wyatt family. So it's not like he's coming in as like a surrogate third Shield guy. He's coming in as, I'm a guy who hates the Wyatts. Like, that's so that's the best thing.
And there's a lot of things you could do with that.
That's the best thing about Eric Rowan is that if Eric Rowan doesn't double cross those two guys, you have have like, oh, we beat the Wyatt family, now Rowan's gonna go do his own thing. He's not gonna just be like saddled with Ambrose and Reigns as like their third buddy.
Right.
Yeah,
but
like,
I
here's
think
the vest for you. Like, oh,
I think the double cross idea would really work, but you can't do it right away.
Right.
I feel
no,
that's
yeah. I mean, they're doing great by just prolonging this
That would
story.
be awesome.
because I think right now is a very, very pivotal moment in Bray Wyatt's career. You know, we've seen, we want to talk about like, oh, they're not using guys right and all this stuff. You know, in all fairness, I don't think they have used Bray Wyatt right, exactly. And I think that right now this is almost like a chance to hit the restart button on something that we did really love. They're kind of bringing it back to what it originally was.
Yep.
And they have a chance to do it right this time.
So who do you say? Who do you say is the third man?
Well, Big Show, obviously. No, yeah, because everyone wants to see that.
Right.
Oh, that was, side note, that was great when he's like took the mic in the middle of his match, like, you come make me retire.
Yeah,
That was a really good match.
Yeah, no, Big Show's great. Like, he's one like the best actor on the roster, and
Oh, but that match just, it was like, oh, all right, whatever, typical match. But then they went past that point where you're like, wait a second, is Big Show?
It was good.
Is he going to win this?
Right. So who's your choice?
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho for the third member. I like that. I like that
good.
a lot.
I'm
Scott?
sticking with JTG.
Sticking with JTG.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the one I want to see.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, there's also always the
An
possibility.
NXT guy.
Yeah, that
Joe?
there's another giant NXT dude that we haven't seen, just like Braun. Like there's always that possibility. But
I'm gonna go with Joe.
Would be fun.
I would like it if it was Samoa Joe. I feel like that
That'd
would
be really
be
fun.
fitting, but I feel like it just. I mean, at the same time, I think the one thing that we all really want to see is that Joe Owens feud continue, and I feel like when he comes up, that's got to be the first target.
Right.
'Cause
Well, first he's got to challenge Balor for the NXT title and lose.
See, I don't think they need to keep Joe in NXT too long.
No, for
I
sure.
think at this point we don't even need Joe in NXT. I think Joe's ready to come on up to that.
Joe's
roster.
been ready forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe can hang.
You know another one that they've got down there when you talk about legends per se and people that they could always have someone like Rhino come up.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not be as exciting, but I think he would fit in really well with that dynamic and be
Yeah.
able to make good matches out of that.
Absolutely.
Is that your third man? Who's
No,
your third man?
my third man's Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know who everyone wants to have be the third man, but it's not going to happen, is Bryan Danielson. Because he's also got beef with the Wyatts and
Yeah.
That'd be great.
If he could make it back in time, it'd be something.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys.
Who's your third man? Comment on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, guys. Who's your third man? Tell us on the Wrestling Compadres Facebook page, of course, on our Twitter, all that good stuff. Now, I said to you guys I wanted to open this conversation up a little bit differently before we wrap up today. And I want to pose a question to you that I saw, and I believe it was Kevin Sullivan posted on Twitter earlier in the week, that I thought was a really cool
Who's your favorite Dungeon of Doom member?
Deity!
No. But he posed the question of, if you had one opportunity to show someone wrestling that's not a fan, doesn't know anything about it, what match would you show them and why?
A guy or a girl?
Either, you know what? I'll give you both scenarios and you tell me what you think. But I want to pose that same question to you guys because I'm really interested to hear your answers.
I've tried this in a couple of times in life. Like I showed a previous girlfriend one match. I'm like, I gotta nail this. Like, what do I show? And when I showed it to her, it was immediate regret of like, I chose the wrong match.
Which match did you show?
I should have shown that to a guy instead. I showed her one of my favorite matches when I got back into wrestling in a big bad way was Cactus Jack versus Triple H at Royal Rumble 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Great match, but probably not the one to show a girl.
Right, but I kept heavily thinking about Mick Foley, the storyteller.
Right.
Mick Foley, the underdog, and I thought that might get it. You know, that might be the connection for her. And then I go, oh God, this is so violent.
Okay, so if you were going to show a guy wrestling or whatever, you'd go with that one for the
I
first
think
one?
I'd go with that one for the first one.
What about if you're going to show a woman?
I think I have a good one for someone. If you're going to show a woman who has like no interest in wrestling at all,
Okay.
I think Warrior Savage WrestleMania 7.
Oh yeah, that is a good one.
That's
Liz comes
romantic.
back and saves him at the end.
I think that's a great one.
That's a solid.
But we just had this question on Rudo Radio as well.
Oh, okay.
A fan asked us if you
when
were
does that
gonna-
come out?
It's on Wednesdays. It comes out.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Look at you honing in on your inner Mick Foley.
it comes out right this Wednesday on this internet. I think that that's not a universal question because I think you have to read the person that you're showing it to. Like, are they going to be blown away by comedy? Are they going to be blown away by sheer spectacle? Are they going to be blown away by athleticism? Are they going to be blown away by the story and the emotion?
Yeah.
Like,
Way to
it's
ruin
not
the question, Bill.
No, but I think it's
factors.
important.
It's all the factors.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, you can't just show the same. Like, you can't show like
Okay,
Danielson
then-
versus Daniels
fine,
versus
then let me-
low key
then-
to everyone. You
Then
know?
here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip the question on you guys a bit, and you tell me this. If you, like I said to you guys earlier, PWG this past weekend kind of rekindled a love for me, and it made me start thinking about what I love about pro wrestling. If you were like on the fence about like, oh man, you know, wrestling, I'm kind of whatever, what match would you go back and watch that would make you fall in love with wrestling again?
It would be another Foley match. Foley, I watched as a kid. It was all the Hogan era and then Warrior and all that stuff and Savage. But then I dropped out. I didn't like the 90s stuff. I didn't connect with those guys. It wasn't just the goofy jobs and everything. It was just all of it.
It's a weird time.
I didn't like technical wrestling either at the time. I liked big brawlers. And then I watched, my brother took me to a house show and I thought it was really cool, but then when I started watching, I was immediately gravitated towards Mick Foley. So Mick is always the guy that pulls me back in because Mick reminds me of everything. He's the roller coaster of wrestling to me.
Okay.
It's scary, it's fun, it's hilarious, it's all of it. So I think with Mick, I would probably, maybe I'd watch that match with him and Orton from Backlash 04, roughly, something like that.
Okay.
Something towards the tail end when it's like, oh, it's all done. He's still got more in the tank.
Bill?
WrestleMania 30.
Okay. Undertaker.
No, WrestleMania
Just
30.
WrestleMania
It's
30.
the perfect. WrestleMania 31. So I think that 30 and 31 have been like the two best top to bottom WrestleManias of all time.
Well, I'm gonna
Better
have
the
to.
next 7. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
See, because WrestleMania 17 for me, that's like, I mean, that Rock Austin match and of course in Houston in the Astrodome for me, you know, there's a lot of like, oh yeah, I love this.
WrestleMania X7 is amazing. It's great. But I think top to bottom, 30 and 31 are the two best wrestling shows. And 30 specifically tells like the best wrestling story, the wrestling story we've always wanted. You know, Daniel Bryan has to overcome everything to win the titles. And he's the dude that's all of us. And he does it. Starts it by beating Triple H and ends it by beating Batista and Randy Orton. And like you watch it again and it's wow. And the Brock Taker match just gets better and better with each review.
For me, there's two matches that I always remember, just like two of my favorites. My ultimate favorite match, of course, is it's a weird one. It's Kurt Angle versus Shane McMahon, King of the Ring.
No, that's one of my absolute favorite
2001.
matches. Yes.
That match had everything. It had pure technical wrestling. It had hardcore elements. It had some even some humorous aspects, just the way Shane is.
Yep.
It had terrifying moments of
going through the glass. You know, like I mean,
it's absolutely one of my top 5 matches in history.
And it's always weird, you know, like to say that because when you think of that, Shane isn't a wrestler, but
he's had some of the best. Every match that Shane's ever had has been a special match.
So for me, if I can watch that match 100 times over and love it and see something new in it. The other one would be Royal Rumble off of, you know, the one first TLC.
Yeah.
With the Hardys, the Dudleys,
Super
Edge
awesome.
and Christian. That match, and then of course any match that Shawn Michaels or Triple H has been in, I've always just enjoyed, you know? So those would be mine.
Well, luckily, I get to have my love of professional wrestling rekindled every Tuesday night because that's when Total Divas is on. I'm not joking. It's the absolute best television show on TV. It's like my favorite thing every week.
I've never heard that sentence.
It's amazing. I recap it every Wednesday morning on Cage
No
Side
wonder
Seats.
you and Dale are friends.
It's the best. It's the pinnacle of the reality show genre because it's about a dozen people who've dedicated their entire lives to kayfabe, so they're perfect for reality television. Because every other reality television show you've ever watched, it's like either people who are trying too hard or people who are putting on a false persona that you can tell is false. But with Total Divas, it's just this is everything that reality TV has ever aspired to be.
You may actually get me to watch the show.
It is perfect, especially the last 2 seasons. If you start watching from the beginning, it might be a little slow for the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay.
That's probably when a lot of people bailed on it, but it is absolutely perfect.
That's wow! I am blown away by that statement.
I've never heard anyone say anything like that.
It's my. I'm not lying. It's my absolute favorite television show.
Where does Legends House fall?
I like Legends House.
Okay.
It doesn't come close to
Wow.
Divas.
All right.
Well, guys, this has been a fantastic show this day. I've really enjoyed the conversation we've had in here. I know, listeners, it's been a little bit different than the normal. Obviously, Johnny wasn't running the ship for us.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Jenny was gone.
Yeah. Poor
You
Jen.
were always home eating a ribeye.
Get some sides with that ribeye.
You know, but I think that Johnny will be back with us next week. Hopefully Dale will be on the phone with us as well. But you
Sure,
know,
we'll have news about the shirts.
we will have news about the shirts. We've been having some discussions about it, and there will be new news for you guys next week about the Wrestling Compadres t-shirts that are coming your way.
Nice.
Of course, Johnny will get really mad at me if I don't remind y'all that he's got his blood drive coming up in September. So make sure you hit him up on Twitter.
Look on the Facebook page for info.
Right.
Wait, this is we can buy Johnny LaQuasto's blood?
That's right. In little vials like Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton.
No, Johnny.
Around your neck.
Johnny, look, for all the crap that I might give him, Johnny and I are buddies, and Johnny does have a really big heart, and he really does a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and it's really cool that he is organizing this massive blood drive, out here in LA to kind of get blood for people that need it, simply put. And he's taking his time, his effort. He's not getting paid to do it. So kudos to Johnny. Make sure you hit him up, find details, go out there, donate blood.
It's an incredibly important cause.
Yes. So, on that note, Dale is somewhere in DC doing his thing. But Scott, put yourself over.
You can follow me on Twitter at Curtain Jerks and listen to my comedy wrestling podcast, Curtain Jerks, with sketches, characters, impressions, all that good stuff. And this week we have Robbie E on the show. TNA's own Robbie E.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, you should definitely listen to Curtain Jerks. It's good.
Oh,
That's funny.
I'm flattered.
Bill, put yourself over.
As I said, you can go to sbnation.com/wrestling to see all of the cool videos that I've been putting out from SummerSlam weekend. We've got about 6 videos up so far. We're going to have a dozen more coming up over the next couple weeks. I've done interviews with a bunch of people, including Stephanie McMahon, Seth Rollins' page. You can go to cagesideseats.com and find everything else that I'm writing about wrestling and everything else that our cool team over there is writing about wrestling. Really great community. If you're not part of the Cage Side Seats community, sign up for the website and you can comment, and we have really good discussions, and everyone's not a massive jerk like a lot of other websites.
Yeah, they're fun articles.
And I really loved your video this week, by the way, Bill, of you interviewing children about why.
Interviewed children about why they love wrestling.
And it was a great video. It was a great video, and if you guys haven't seen that, make sure you check it out because it will leave you smiling.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Sundown Motel, and I've written 4 movies for Asylum. So if you want to go watch
Three-Headed Shark
Attack, starring Danny Trejo and RVD, I co-wrote that. I also co-wrote. We've actually got a movie coming out called Blue Line. Should be out early next year with Kevin Nash in it.
Nice.
It's not an Asylum movie, but it's still good.
Hey, love
the
it.
vibe.
Well, of course, guys, you can find me on Twitter at crice17. You can find me on Instagram at chuckrice. I'm going to take a moment not to put some of my stuff over, but a friend of mine asked me to do a favor for him. Recently, his girlfriend passed away, and she had a son, and obviously the family wasn't super well off. So he's asked me to tell about his GoFundMe that he started to help pay for some expenses for the son and the funeral expenses. Find him on Twitter, Brian_coin, and that's BRYAN_COYNE. Hit him up, check it out. He even said they don't need to donate, just put the word out there. So hopefully some people that can will. So that's what I'm putting over this week. Do me that favor if you guys can check that out. It would be much appreciated. And guys, it's been awesome. Thank you, Steven in there handling the show for us this week. Always a pleasure working with you. And guys, that's the show this week.